Omar, did you know that one of the key reasons for the dot-com bubble was the fact that actually far too much fiber optic cable was laid down in anticipation of the internet boom?
Reminds me of Albania.
In what way?
Same thing. They once they rebuilt after the fifth, sixth, seventh war they had, their internet is wildly overbuilt for their use case, which is turning into a good thing for them.
Wait, I thought
Yeah,
that was Romania, right?
that's all. That's it. Any
It's
place
all,
out
it's
there,
all,
yeah, they just why build it with older technology,
yeah.
right? Just build it with 5G and turn over your SIGINT to China.
The problem is with so what happened with the dot-com bubble was apparently, so I was watching a video on this only earlier today. They went for all the transcontinental stuff and then completely forgot about the last mile aspect to it. So there was this really big anticipation of the boom and adoption of the internet, but you are only as successful as your kind of customers' willingness to adopt the product. And if everybody is so hamstrung with adopting the product because the speeds aren't good enough, because people only had back then, and for younger listeners, viewers, not going to know the ear screeching noise that we had when dialing it to the internet, but it was one phone line, so you could either use the phone
Mhm.
or it was use the internet.
Yep.
And the
Yep.
family arguments that this would, because I remember my mum going absolutely ape shit at me one time because I was waiting for a because she was waiting for a call from the doctor, and I was on it for literally it was like a 5 minute period where I needed to go on because it had been like, oh, I'm waiting for the call, I'm waiting for the call all night, and I was like, nothing's happening. So I left for another 5 minute period, and yeah, and I got bollocked for that. So that's great. But yeah, so you couldn't use the two at the same time. So it
Right.
really hamstrung adoption. All the while there was what these called these like dark fiber highways
Hmm.
uh, of fiber optic cable. Apparently at the time there was something like two of them from East Coast to West Coast, from New York to LA, was more than enough to carry all the signal that they needed to at the time. Infinite wisdom, the ISPs, the telecoms providers, decided to lay down another 8 from LA to Houston,
Just in case.
10 from New York to DC, which actually is not that long of a distance
No,
either.
no.
And as a result, it was this enormous kind of hype around the internet. Nobody could really get on it. So all of these internet companies went absolutely bananas in terms of valuations. But because all the money had been spent in the wrong place, adoption of it was really stymied. And that in part contributed to this great big implosion of all of the share prices. Also, plus the standard kind of, FOMO and market euphoria and that sort of stuff. And there's interesting little tidbit I learned this morning.
Dark fiber, man, that's still an intriguing concept now. I highly recommend looking into it more so.
As in,
It's still technically what you call stuff even inside of a city now, like for certain days. Like if you're an enterprise and you wanna make sure that you have and you're building for the future, you call up like your Con Ed, right? You call up your
mhm,
provider and you go, "Listen, we're gonna run some dark fiber between these, different locations. It's gonna definitely be bigger and more ample than what we could possibly think of needing for right now." But then it forms the basis for connectivity between, say, hospital locations, just as a by the by, right? And then that's what
gotcha.
you end up partitioning for use as you're building out, like, okay, we're going to bring in this stuff for Wi-Fi. We're going to bring in this, and that's so you have to kind of work with your local utilities. But yeah, even now inside of like within a city's footprint, that's usually what you do if you're big wig enough, or if you're going to have enough draw on the resource. You have to go, "Hey, let's lay some." You should, at least I should say. Now, maybe you could get away with, like, more, like, other ways, but just the most reliable still to this day, last I checked, was still that very, very concept, so it makes sense, man.
I do remember when I started off out in consultancy from when I finished university, and the one of the guys was talking about the network stuff, and it was something like it'll seem stupidly small by today's standards, but like a megabyte line
Yeah.
uh, was wildly expensive. And we were sitting there going, why is that so expensive? Because we've got like 10 meg 10 meg broadband for uh, the consumer
Retail.
grade and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
retail,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's like, and he said, well, it's because you share that. So you share all of bandwidth with everybody else. Your traffic goes in along everybody else's. If you've got
Yep,
the reason a megabyte dedicated is so much more expensive is because it's yours.
yep,
It's completely yours.
yep,
And as a result, it's counterintuitively an awful lot faster than something that is rated for 10 times its
yep.
like transfer speed.
Direct connect and anything that you do like in the cloud too. Same kind of deal. Like if you spring for and if you need it, right? If your use case demands it and you need like super low latency, you
Mhm.
can have, AWS come out and lay some of that. Right? And it's not necessarily going to be like you said, like the wild advertised speeds or size, but it's just you and it's just your use case.
Yeah.
Costs out the ass, right? But at that time, like if
It's like
you
having a
need
private jet.
1,000%, it's not necessarily exactly. That's a really good point because it's not going to be
It's the private jet
it's
of
not going to be a
communications.
Concorde, right? It's not going to
No,
be a supersonic, hypersonic, whatever, right? It's not going to, but it's
but it
yours.
is yours and it goes when you want
Exactly. So at the end, it's
and
like
it gets maintained when you want.
practically faster, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. Prohibitively expensive,
I think that was the analogy I used all like back then. It was like 10, 12 years ago.
dude. Thank you, Pass
So
Robin.
yeah. Interestingly enough, so there's not a dark AI scenario going on.
Really? You
In
don't
that
think
there's
so?
yeah no in that so not in the same way as the dark fiber piece, and not in the sense that there is unused capacity because infrastructure has been built out too fast. Because if you think about the supply constraints against GPUs, against the semiconductors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, against RAM, random access memory, like that is
Or DRAM, right?
wildly,
Yeah,
wildly,
yeah,
yeah, DRAM is
yeah, yeah,
wildly more expensive
yeah.
now, like by a
Went up
magnitude of
like
like
400%. Like no joke. I was looking
yeah,
at this
yeah,
yesterday. It
it's
went
like
up like
it's an
350,
order of 10.
400%. Yeah,
Exactly.
100%. Yeah.
And which is also apparently, Nate was telling me about this. It's a reason why Micro Center is really, really highly regarded because they will hold stuff back and do like one per customer kind of like limits on these kind of things. So you don't get
They've
scalpers just like
they
driving up
were
the price even
they
further.
always were some of like I didn't appreciate them enough when I had access to them until like I moved up here.
I
And
didn't
it's
realize how
yeah,
privileged like I am to be
yeah.
half an hour away from one. It's
Bro,
quite
it is
amazing.
legit. I remember I remember many moons ago, right? Like doing like hard drives and stuff for CCTV camera setups, right? Like that was one of my first jobs in tech and then, transitioned into like phone scanning and whatnot off of the back of that. And being able to have a micro center like a stone's throw, right? Because we were in the Bronx.
Yeah,
And then like that they would like do credit terms with us because we did so much
yes,
business that like they would be like, no, listen, grab some. But it was because they were always consistently, and if they didn't have something, it was because there was a drop.
yeah.
That was yeah, yeah,
What I found, because I've been in there a couple of times, and what I found so funny about it as well was it's like stepping into some sort of like time warp. It looks like,
yeah,
aside from all the tech everywhere,
yeah,
it looks like a late 90s, early 2000s furniture
100,
store.
yeah,
Like
dude,
in the
like
architecture
yeah,
everywhere.
this may be a
Lots of
little
crown
bit,
molding and stuff.
this may be a little bit like too old for you, right? Like, and also because it was like a distinct like East Coast thing, but like Crazy Eddie or like PC Richard and Son, like
I remember, yeah,
kind
PC
of
Richard.
so yeah,
There's one on 14th Street
yeah, and it's
until
still
reasonably recently.
yes, and but like 100% or like old school Radio Shacks.
Mm,
Kind of like it gives just that, although like you said, because Micro Centers obviously has like a bigger footprint, it really does look like a Levitt's furniture, like a Raymore and Flanagan, but like the old school showroom. It's like it just you're
yeah.
100% spot on. Like you could go and be, like what IKEA grew out from, right? Is what it just gives me yeah, man, that brings me back, brother. Like that's so nuts. KB Toy Store, but just for tech. Yeah, bro. Yeah.
But in terms of, as I was saying, in terms of the usage and demand for AI products,
It's the inverse.
because
Yeah.
yeah, it's the complete opposite situation. They can't build out the capacity fast enough, which is why
Yep.
you're getting like entire towns being like in drought situations because the data centers taking all their water
All the
from the
water
local
or the
water
electricity
source, which
bills
is, and the
still.
electricity bills going up as well. And that's your last mile problem is the energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why we're having this boom in, or pre-boom hype around nuclear and small modular reactors and all of that sort of stuff,
There's
and
also
why you're
something else that
getting
happened.
Google and Microsoft getting into the power generation business.
There's also something else that happened recently that might be pointing at, like, an energy sort of trying to get
Uh,
your
yeah, there is, but actually that's a relieving the constraint on energy, because yeah, rather than buy your oil, just steal it.
just just go from their snatch Maduro right there. Just
Just
buy.
just 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 depose a foreign leader and steal it.
We're
Which
we're playing
I
D&D, but in real life. Like, this is not.
so however which way it goes, and I know my wife told me not to be too political on this. So I'm gonna say this piece, and then we'll go
Gotta listen to the wife. Absolutely. Yeah.
jump into the credit. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Ignore the wife at
Please.
your peril.
No. Mm-mm.
What
I
I
ain't
found
taking.
quite amusing about it was last year, and for about 12 months prior, in this country we were talking all about voter ID and registration,
Sure,
and
sure.
everybody's saying, hey, look, even Venezuela has fingerprint ID when it comes to voting. And now, just this last week, the entire tune is, well, Maduro's a dictator who got into his position of power illegitimately because he fixed the election. Doesn't seem like that fingerprinting stuff worked so well, does it?
I didn't know exactly where you're gonna take that, but that is a nice nuanced take. I like that.
It is a
I like
it
it.
is a straight up contradiction that, like, it's just, oh, I'm just going to pitch the narrative that suits me and mine at the time. It's straight up, you know, ministry of what was it, Ministry of Truth, like, oh, we've upped your chocolate rations to 20 grams a week. Last week they were 30. No, if we just tell you that we've upped it generously to 20, you'll eventually start believing
Up
it.
is down, bro.
It's that
War is peace, bro. Like, this is where we're living,
fucking gaslighting.
Yeah, yeah.
Can't figure out which light I like best. Right, on that note, let's go to the credits.